Thanks for taking the time,
Yeah, I
Shane.
really appreciate it.
Awesome.
I mean a lot that
Awesome.
you want to you bring me on your podcast. So thank you so much.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, it's just awesome to hear people's stories and backgrounds in the training program. So feel free to just kind of for people who aren't aware of who you are, like feel free to just introduce yourself and what your background is.
Sure. So my name is Shane Levine. I'm a product designer by trade. So specifically software products. I started my career at StockX. So if you're unfamiliar, it's a sneaker marketplace, evolved to many different things other than sneakers, but they do billions of dollars. And I started early there as one of the first designers, and then saw the growth for that company go up quite a bit. Hopped around to a couple different other startups, built some small startup design teams and then decided it was time for me to start my own company. So I started Turbo in November of 2023, and we help startups with design. So we do mostly UX, UI, product design, but we have our hands on all kinds of design as well, brand design, graphic design, and some physical design too. So it's fun. A little bit of your space there, Patrick. Yeah.
Awesome, man. What what like what stirred up the energy to go, I want to do my own thing? Like what was it? What was the motivation behind that?
So I've always been an entrepreneur throughout high school and college, and then into my working career. I was always building side projects, and there's always been a strong desire to really um, craft my own adventure. So I think it was just the time kind of came to be and it felt right. Like, okay, this is a doable thing. I had some freelance clients while I was working, um, and decided to just jump in and see how far I could take it. This year, we got to seven figures ARR towards the end of the year. So, in that short, like one year time period, it brought from like just a couple freelance clients to a full scale design agency. We've at the peak we had I think nine contractors on the team, marketing hire, and this year we worked with 25 startups. So it was definitely a successful 2024.
Amazing. What like on a scale of 0 to 100, how much did you know about running your own thing when you started to dip your toe in the water?
I think like I have a little bit of a knack for business, right? So like, but what I mean by that is really just like basic like unit economics and stuff that you kind of teach, right? Like trying to think about things on the smallest scale, and just making sure that, we're bringing in a sizable profit to be able to reinvest and capture more customers. But in terms of actually like understanding like what it's going to take to build a design agency, like I had no idea. I never worked with a design agency before. I've mostly spent my time in early stage startups working on design for software products. So all kinds of stuff, whether it's how to hire people, how to really manage clients and relationships, is something that I've really just had to learn while I've been at bat. So.
Awesome. Um, so so take us through maybe like obviously it seemed to be last year that you kind of crossed over the seven figure AIR. And we'll get into like kind of the math of like how you actually get paid and the frequency and the setup because it's there's obviously project per project basis, but it sounds like you've obviously got recurring business as well. But take us through like what were some of the big kind of mental unlockings that you kind of ran into last year that allowed you to kind of cross that barrier?
I think like when we first spoke, you and I, Patrick, you told me like you don't really have to change a lot with the way you're operating. The biggest thing you have to change is your mindset. And so, for me, that was like really thinking like, okay, how far can I take this by myself, and what do I need to do to get there? And I think when I started, like, um, $1 million business sounds like insane. Like, like how could I do that myself? And especially just this first year and in the business that I'm in. Um, and so it's really just like a mindset thing at the beginning. And I think like, you know, it's similarly to get to 1 million to 10 million, it's probably a different mindset shift. To get to 10 million to 100, it's another mindset shift. So I think the unlock there is just like really just believing number one that you can, and then like breaking it down is like, okay, if I can do it, how would I do it? And then it's like this year we're trying to get to 2 million. So, um, what is that going to take? Okay, so I'm breaking that down into like my monthly and quarterly goals. What do I have to do by the end of quarter one to get there, to be ready for quarter two, and so on. So then come, November, December of 2025, that, I surpass those goals. So for me, it's like a mindset thing. And I tell people a lot, like, your mindset is really the thing that's limiting you the most. You probably just don't realize that yet.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, it's you very rarely run into people that if they've clearly defined their goal and then just reverse engineered, oh, well, that's if I was able to achieve those things, then it would actually get me there. Very few of those people don't progress towards that goal with a good amount of speed because it really just is like we're going to do something anyway. We might as well aim for something that's like a really good goal for us that excites us, I suppose. So take us through like what's it's probably good to come back to the ARR model. So can you explain
Yeah, yeah.
like how your pricing structure works for most of your clients? Because obviously most people are project by project, but your setup's a bit different.
Yeah, so I think you've probably seen this online. It's been pretty popular last year, the year before, this pricing model. It's like more of a subscription design agency. I think a lot of them popped up on Twitter around this like $5,000 a month. And so I saw that and I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. It seems like a lot of value. So I kind of started in that realm where I was charging like, you know, for a couple few $1,000s a month and bringing it up and up and up. Um and so now we charge like low, five figures per month um to do full scale design for software products. So typically clients, like, they stick with us for 3 to 6 months, and then ultimately we will help them hire a designer for their team, or they'll be kind of good for a bit. I think a lot of times startup founders, they want to bring on a designer because they want their design and their product to be really polished. But in the early stages, you don't actually need a designer 100% of the time. And so if you hire someone for 150K, you might just be paying them to sit around for a little bit. And or like you want to be able to have that flexibility. So a lot of our clients will actually like pause, go raise money, and then come back. We've had that a couple times. And so yeah, we just worked with the chief product officer from FanDuel. He started a new company. So we helped him with like the brand, the product, the deck. He went and raised a bunch of money and then came back, and now we're helping him release his product. So um, I think, like, if you think about this model, okay, how do I get enough clients to, in my thinking, have like $1 million ARR, $2 million ARR? It's really just a math equation, right? It's like, okay, I need
Yep.
this many clients at this price per client, and if they churn every 6 months, then I need to bring on, a certain amount of new
What did
clients.
I lose? Yeah, got it.
So
The other thing I think is interesting is is like if you break it down from an economic model standpoint and you're a startup that's trying to build software, like you said, you might hire somebody for 150 grand who spends half of their time twiddling their thumbs because they don't know how to utilize them. On top of that, you're also paying 15 to 20% for the recruiter to fill that role as well, like off the bat. So in a lot of ways, economically, the it makes more sense to bring somebody like you because there's the flexibility. How much of your like education or sales process kind of goes into understanding that specific context? Do you spend a bit of time discussing that and like that being one of the strengths of using somebody like you, or how do you go about that?
That's a good question. So I think a lot of people come to me where, like you just mentioned, like they want design and they're not really like 100% sure if it makes sense to hire a designer full time, bring on an agency. And so they're kind of looking to me as like, okay, like what is the benefit of working with you? And honestly, sometimes it doesn't make sense to run a product design agency. And so a lot of times people will come to us and they'll be like, we want X, Y, and Z. And we really want someone really bought in 100% of the time, like going to be in our office. We want to be able to, get a hold of you on Thanksgiving and Christmas. And, like that makes perfect sense. Like go hire someone that's gonna, be your right hand designer. But on the flip side, if you want to bring on top talent right now and have them start next week or tomorrow, then this makes a lot more sense. So I think when you switch you just turn off the economics of it, you can also think about it in terms of like, okay, what's the actual value in terms of how fast you can get going? It's not that easy to hire a designer right now. One of our clients, who we've been working with for 6 months, their goal is to work with us to kind of, keep the engineers flowing with designs and while they hire. And they had someone, they spent 6 months trying to get them. And today I just got a call that, they're probably going to renew with us because the person that signed the offers, they decided not to go with it. So, I think that's a big part of it too, is just like getting top tier talent quickly and people that are going to help kind of move things along because it's all about time in startups, right? It's like runway, um, burn, all of those things are super important. And so if you can think about it in terms of the startup's founder, how would they kind of consider that decision? Then you can kind of pitch it to them and help them make sense of whether it makes sense to go with someone like us or hiring someone full time.
Got it. So I mean, the way that you explain that, it doesn't sound like there's a hard sell going on at all.
No, it
It
sounds
sounds
like
like it sounds like you really know who you're for, and if somebody overlaps, it sounds pretty obvious. And then if they're not, you're kind of pushing them in another direction. But what obviously getting to your revenue run rate is awesome, but it obviously I can imagine brings a bit of stress. So like how have you dealt with the volume of work? Because to deliver for most people to deliver 5 figures worth of value a month and keep somebody retained is quite an effort in itself for one or two clients. So like take us through like what changes had to be made from maybe when you started to now to be able to maintain that without like losing a quality of life, I suppose.
totally. And so that is where I really rely heavily on my team. So I've built kind of just like a stack of eight A players that are really, really top tier in product design. If I'm constantly like looking for new people to join the team and they really support um all aspects of what we do. So project management to actually doing the design work, they're really involved in all of it. And they also interface directly with the client. So I think having someone that like is directly uh, connected to the project and they're only working on a couple projects per month, maybe, 1 to 2 max. They have like their full kind of focus on those projects, are able to really like dive deep into the weeds and also be very responsive when needed. And so I think like having that person be kind of the lead and then also my oversight has been really helpful in like the delivery. But it's something that I'm focused on, and I think I'll have to continue like pushing um towards how do we keep going? How do we um, do this with more clients or increase our prices and deliver even more value?
Got it. So you're really more you're mere, really more the architect at the top level than the participating designer at this point, by the sound of it.
Yeah, and that's been a little bit of a journey for me too, is like learning to like design less. I'm sure, I mean, as you know, like the best designers out there like are the designers that I want to work with. And so it's a lot of fun to just work with like really talented people. And frankly, I'm not the best designer there is out there, but I think when you work with a team, and especially like now that my team is kind of working with each other, we're getting like this cross collaboration where it started off where I was kind of like the spoke of the wheel connected to all of the designers on the team, and now it's starting to be a network where everyone's kind of talking to another each other and building like a more collaborative kind of space. And that's been really cool to see like the just the value that's come out of that.
Yeah, nice. Um, and from like a from like an ongoing project standpoint, how would you what would you say your involvement is for each project? Obviously, sales, onboarding, you play a role. Are you kind of more of a, I can imagine you're more of like a creative director making sure the project doesn't go in a completely different direction more than a kind of hands-on builder.
Yeah,
is that kind of how you see your role or
that's right. I think it's like it's creative direction, it's a little bit of project management, it's operations on the business side, but specifically like for the client, it's like strategy. So a lot of these early stage founders, um, they're not exactly sure what they need and what they actually want. And so they're kind of looking to us to help them drive a lot of the product strategy, whether it's like, okay, how do we make this feature more shareable, or like how do we make it so that we're increasing the conversion with this iteration rather than just making it look better. And so I think it helps to have someone on the team like myself that's really focused on like the holistic strategy of the product design that we're doing. So I try and focus on that and like guiding the designers. Sometimes it doesn't work out, right? People, things happen, people get sick. So I think I'm always there to like jump in and make sure that the shit keeps moving.
got it? What in regards to your kind of involvement with the mastermind, is there any key takeaways that you think have had the biggest impact? Because obviously everybody, depending on where they are in their journey, kind of resonates with something different. Like what is it about? Like what ideas do you feel like have resonated the most for you?
Yeah, I think for me, like, um, I was really reluctant at the beginning to like to join the mastermind. And I talked to some really great people that loved it, and they convinced me more than anything to really give it a go. And I think it was a great decision. And I encourage like all types of early stage entrepreneurs to seek guidance and to seek mentorship groups and coaches, because it's really just like a leapfrog in terms of like learnings that you're just downloading from someone else. So I think like holistically it was the right decision. It's a scary decision to make, I think, for a lot of people. Like you're not really sure, and I think there's a lot of scary stuff out there on the internet. So I think it was like absolutely the right decision. It definitely made a huge impact on my business. I think specifically the sales kind of portion of the mastermind was super helpful. I think like you could probably like just sell the sales script for the same price that you sell the whole mastermind, and I think that would be valuable. Like I think that would be worth it. So the sales portion was like super valuable to me. I think also just like a little bit what we talked about earlier, like the mindset stuff. So like starting with your objective every day and kind of painting the picture of who you want to become, whether this is like, next year, 5 years, or 20 years from now. What does your life look like? What does it visualize? Creating those mood boards. And I think that was super helpful for me as well this past year. And I'm going to try and continue to do that stuff. I think I still have a long ways to go on the mastermind. So there's definitely more learnings for me to have. And I think like I'm really excited to dive deep into like the marketing section and different kind of pieces that you have that are coming up. So
Yeah, amazing. Um, the yeah, it's something that we emphasize pretty heavily on is like everything that we discuss in the objective. So, take us through maybe some of the shifts in just how you think about the future, like a couple of years ago versus now. Like, what, like how far do your goals extend, and how clear is the definition of those goals versus maybe a couple of years ago?
yeah, I think like I wasn't really thinking that many years ahead or even like more than a couple months ahead before I joined the mastermind. It was always like, okay, what is next month's revenue gonna look like? And like how do I make sure it's the same or more than this month? And so like focusing on ahead of like a year to like 3 years and 5 years. I think obviously it gets a little fuzzy after that. But I think just being able to really like, okay, lock it down and okay, I really want to get here and I really need to like pick up the pace and focus on reverse engineering those goals to get there. So that was super helpful for me. And I think like anyone who's looking to get into like a design business needs to really think about their key objective. I now have all of my employees read over like our objective documents and strategic objective that you took us through. So I think that's been also another thing that's been really helpful is like the principles and procedures. So making sure like things are documented and like sharing those out. I think when a new designer joins the team and sees like, oh wow, this is like all this stuff documented, it's not only like valuable to them, it's like, okay, these guys are the real deal. They're not just like some random, go with the wind agency that's like just gonna tag team me in. They're like they have stuff written down which shows they're more experienced. So having like real process and systems in place is something that I'm still trying to focus on, still building, but just even just getting like a foot in the door there has been really helpful.
Yeah, nice. Um, Take us through maybe what's the biggest obstacle or the challenge that you've had to overcome in the last 12 months? I'm sure with building this kind of momentum comes, sucky moments as well that we have to problem solve. What's the biggest problem that's presented itself, and how did you go about like solving it, I suppose?
Yeah, I think a big challenge is just keeping the bar super high, right? So it's like when you're charging a pretty sizable premium for things that people could go on Fiverr and pay like nothing for, you have to have a substantial difference. So and what that looks like at scale is like difficult to really like focus on. And so I think bringing on the right people is what has helped me the most. So, and I've definitely gone the wrong way and brought on some team members that didn't work out, um, or like kind of, went absent mid project. That always is something that's difficult to to work through. But I think like as we scaled, it was like just me and one other designer and then another and then another. And I think as I started adding more and more, it became difficult to like build like a very close connection with all the designers on the team. And I think that's something that's really helpful, just to like share information and make sure that they understand um, kind of the learnings that I have through my past experience. So I think keeping that bar high is going to continue to be a challenge. And I think the good news is like sales and marketing and that sort of thing has been, I think, on the easier side. And I think a lot of designers they struggle with that. And my advice there is it's like focus on just putting your work out there. I know you advocate a lot for LinkedIn, and I've found my footing a little bit more on Twitter, or X. And I think just like being very open about what you're doing and what you're thinking about and the work that you've been doing has been super helpful, to just get new clients.
So your your kind of content and marketing strategy is like obviously biased towards X. Like take us through like what the operating procedure looks like for that. Is it really just you and your daily execution of what needs to be done for your clients, and then something pops to mind and you think it's worthy of sharing, or like or do you proactively sit there going, oh, today is Tuesday, I need to post something, or is it really just more flying by the seat of your pants, I suppose?
I think at the beginning it was definitely more like just post whenever something comes, and I you might have seen some of these like memes online. I started posting tons of memes in like 2013, specifically like app design memes. So like you would, like you'd see like the Uber screen, but it's like an Uber driver that allows you to smoke pot and in the so you can like select that one or like I don't know, it's like funny things that people see it and it does two things. They laugh, they share it, it gets a lot of views and engagement. But then it also makes them think like, oh wow, this guy like he made this actually look like Uber. Like if Uber was to release this. So he's got some design skills here. And so it kind of like that started to breed a lot of like interest in just visual, just like or in product design. Um, and so that's how I kind of grew the account originally. And then I've kind of stopped doing that. I think it helps to get like that reach. So you can reach millions of people. I've had posts, get to 5, 6 million impressions. But posts that do the best are like, hey, a client just said like they liked this design, and here's like what they said. And it's like from Slack, and it's a screenshot that looks terrible. And it gets 5 likes, and like 3 people book calls with me. So it's like, it's always interesting to see like what content actually converts. And I think you need both. You need some content that's gonna just like get tons of eyeballs so that people follow you. And so that like tells the algorithm that you're worthwhile. And then you need that like social proof content that it's like, I do good work. So that means like posting like real stuff, posting things that like, hey, we just hit this milestone, or hey, like, here's a testimonial. And I think those kinds of pieces put together has been my strategy. So there's a couple of tips and tricks for like, kind of hacking the viral engagement stuff on X. Like you can ask people like, oh, what design looks better? And just getting people to comment. Yeah, the designers love to tell you what their opinions are. So, and really everyone does. So I think that sort of thing is helpful. Or like you recommended, kind of taking something and making it a little bit controversial to get people to comment and trying to, and that's helpful too. So I think nowadays I think the calendar is really more of like a focus. I'm trying to post every day. I have you know, like a focus on posting more about building the agency and what that's like, and just entrepreneurship in general. So things that I've learned, like shiny object syndrome, um, and really just like how to build an agency because I think a lot of people are interested in that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's so you find like obviously a lot of designers end up following you as well, but you obviously find that building a following of designers kind of does also build credibility, and when the kind of regular kind of potential client follows you, the fact that there's a lot of people engaging with your content and follow you, you feel it builds big credibility, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely, right. I think we've gotten to a point where it's like follower accounts are like just as much as a status symbol and a social kind of proof system than like actual audience, right? I think it's funny. Like on X, I can post something, or really on many social media, like and it won't go to your followers because the algorithm just doesn't find it valuable or engaging. But what are those followers worth? It's like, well, I mean, when you do have something engaging and you do have something that the algorithm finds interesting, it will instantly send it out to all of those followers. So I think followers is it's changed, right? Now that we're not in this like chronological based algorithm, it's really just based on what's going to hit. So you have to kind of play with the algorithm more. And now with TikTok coming down, I think who knows what's going to happen here in the US with people going on to other platforms. So something that I'm trying to do this year is do more video content and start messing with that.
So the from like a I can see how building your own like funny UX interfaces for companies is like the idea of the the Uber having the weed option with ordering the cab. I can see how you can apply that to basically any company with the user experience. Like, do you feel like you've found kind of a recipe in the content that you have produced, or are you really just continually trying new things, or is it like a combination of both? How do you think about content?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think early on, like I was just experimenting with a lot of different things, and then I saw my friend Soren Iverson post an idea like that, and so I started to explore those where like these unhinged UI. Like I did one where it would show Instagram, but every time you post, it would show your bank account balance, so you couldn't like fake being on a private jet or um. And that one did numbers. So I think it's it's really like doing those helped me grow. So I did that almost like every day or every other day for 6 months or so. And I think that got to me like a few thousand followers. And then I started exploring other content when that stuff started to die down. So I think like the algorithm is an interesting thing. It's pretty dynamic. Like content types, sometimes they'll continuously be like viral, but other times, the algorithm changes and you have to change as well too. So I think those types of memes are not really they don't work as well anymore, is what I found. So I'm trying to do other stuff. I'm trying to like just try like standard memes that you'll see. Um, so I think honestly, like my good friend, he created like a meme marketing company, and I really like put a lot of focus on just trying to create content that um, people enjoy and makes them laugh because that's what they use social media for, right? It's like that's what they want to see. It's like getting a laugh, and getting a dopamine hit, or trying to learn something or see something that's satisfying. So anytime I post something, I'm trying to make sure that it like hits one of those categories.
Mm.
Uh, and then, when it comes to the business side, showing things like social proof, testimonials. I think that's why you see a lot of people talk about the revenue on social media. It's like it's a form of social proof, right? It's not just like, look at me, I'm badass. It's actually like you should trust me because I make a lot of money. Um, and so that stuff I know has worked for a lot of other people. So I think if you think about it in those types of groups, you can actually do pretty well.
So it sounds like you're pretty good at capturing the moments when your clients are happy with what you've done for them. I mean, obviously, the way that I use this interview is exactly the same way. Like for me, I see my both my businesses as machines that are supposed to produce this type of Zoom call, because like there's no more powerful asset than interviewing somebody that's kind of confirming the features and benefits of the product, I suppose. So, like, do you every time in Slack that something positive is said, you're basically screenshotting it and adding it to a folder or like a. I like to think of it as a trophy cabinet. I've got
Yeah,
my Google
exactly.
Drive called trophy cabinet, but is that how you see it?
I think, yeah, it definitely is. When I see something that's like, oh, this could be a great tweet, like I'll immediately screenshot it. But like, even this week, like one of my clients was like, "Hey, we're in New York City. Like, would you be interested in like meeting us for coffee for an hour and like talking through our project?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course." And then when I got there, they told me that they flew from Vegas to New York City just to meet with me,
Wow.
and they didn't want to freak me out before. And like I was like, "Wow, like that's insane." They really wanted just to like, have a face to face kind of like workshop. And they thought it was so valuable that they would fly out here on the whim that maybe I would meet with them. So that was like stuff like that, right? It's like, wow, that's crazy. Like I'm adding value. I should tell people. Right.
Yeah, yeah, that is like such a high level of social proof that somebody's willing to like not divulge and then just make it out like they're there for some other reason. That's a great indicator. What take us through like what does your average week look like? How like obviously Brooklyn's a pretty cool place to be living as well. So like what's the mix between work and kind of hobby and like if you were to give like an overall I suppose, distribution of where your time is. Like, split it up between managing projects, doing business finance, producing content, and then just whatever else you pepper out throughout the day. Do you work like a solid 8 hour day? Do you kind of work in sprints and kind of go do stuff in between? Like, how have you engineered your life? I suppose.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think I I like really tried to like not be like a hustle kind of culture person. Um, I think in the early days, like I was definitely working, on the weekends and making sure that like I was doing everything. And then I kind of realized like it makes sense to just bring people on and adjust the unit economics where that actually makes sense. And so it really just freed up my time. And I've gotten to the point where, um, like I mentioned, we have a designer that's focused on every single project and making sure that we're um, pushing their milestones and getting their goals of each project hit. And I think that's allowed my daily kind of work schedule to focus on the business. So what that means is like 50% of the time it's like working with designers and or clients. And then the other 50% of the time, like thinking about generating new business, whether that's content creation or sales calls or meeting with, people that want to build partnerships, whether that's like a development agency or marketing agency. I also try to go to like a lot of startup events here in New York City. Where like I've met a ton of startup founders that have hired me just in person. So I think, in terms of like waking up and like working like a solid 8 hours, I would say it's probably, yeah, closer to like 8 or 9 hours, but I also just like really enjoy what I do. So, I might get home from hanging out with some friends and just get back on the computer and finish up some client work at like 11 o'clock or um, make sure that like things are gonna look good on Sunday night before we start the week on Monday. So, I like to explore, the neighborhood, and here in Brooklyn, like you said, there's like a lot of stuff. So, yeah, it's kind of an awesome lifestyle, and it's if you were to tell myself 10 years ago that I'm living this lifestyle, I wouldn't believe you.
Do you feel like what I think a big realization for me, like over the last 3 or 4 years, is that I think a lot of people think that it's just pure hard work. And then, but the more hard work you do, obviously, the easier it becomes to achieve everything because you know what you're doing. But you eventually get to a point where, oh man, like the real key is to set the constraint of going, well, I don't want to hustle 15 hours a day. Um, and then the minute you realize I don't have to hustle, it's like, oh, it's just all about how do I best effectively use the time that I set aside to this, so that I can still live a life outside of this. Are you kind of feeling that as well? Like, because you don't seem like that stressed of a dude. Um, it feels like you seem to be asking the right questions around how do I get how do I focus on the right things today? Is that have you found like adding constraints and like carving out a lifestyle outside of your design business has really helped how you use the time inside of it?
Yeah, I think that's definitely like a portion. I think I stopped working on the weekends. That was like a big shift for me. Just to like, okay, let's make sure that I'm getting everything I need to do done during the week, that I like don't have to work on the weekends when I want to like hang out with friends and live my life. And I think for last year, my big goal was like, can I take time off? Like, I think a lot of designers, they like, that's especially when they're starting a business, they realize that they don't even think about that. Like, oh wait, if I'm running this design agency, like, I literally can't take a minute off, um, unless I like pause all my engagement. And yeah, like last week I went to Guatemala, or not last week, 2 weeks ago I went to Guatemala. Um, and the business ran like, designers met with clients without me. So, um, that was like a crazy unlock. I was like sitting next to a volcano and watching Slacks come in was was definitely like a moment of like, okay, there's a path to this.
Amazing. Um, and what what is it about Brooklyn?
Yeah.
So why
Um,
that?
yeah, so I think there's a great community of designers here in Brooklyn. I grew up in Detroit, Michigan, so not too far away from Brooklyn um, by plane. And I think specifically just living in New York has helped me a ton, just to kind of like think big. I think people, when they come here, they get like this like hustle kind of energy. I think if you've ever been to the city, you definitely experienced that. But I think in Brooklyn, there's like, there's amazing food and amazing things to do. Like I love to climb, so go to the climbing gym a ton. That's right down the street. And I think like living in New York City, it's like the closest thing you can get to like living in somewhere in Europe. It's like walkable, um, you know, no car kind of environment with taking this public transportation and just like being able to see people everywhere you go. For me has been like really energizing.
Yeah, amazing. Um, and at its depth of like cold, how cold does it get?
It's freezing. It is really
It is
cold.
literally freezing.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
so in Fahrenheit it's like what 15 or 16 degrees, but what is that Celsius? Like 15. It's like negative 10 degrees Celsius today.
Oh my
So
God.
it's cold. It's I
Yeah, that is cold.
not not for the weak, but yeah, I was just in Central America where it was much warmer. So
Yeah, I can
you
imagine
have to
that
get
would have been
out.
a complete breath of fresh air. Um, in regards to like if you could go back 2 years and give yourself one piece of advice based on what you've experienced now, what would that be?
I think the one piece of advice I would give myself is probably build a personal brand. So what that means is just really just like post on social media. And I think like you'll hear that all the time, like mostly from people that have a following, but it's like it seems like it's going to be even more important in the future. Because if if AI can kind of do everyone's job, the real differentiator is distribution and like how do you reach people? And I think um, as you've seen Patrick with LinkedIn and Instagram, um, and building like networks there, it's just a great way to like get your message out and to reach the right people. And so I think if you can spend a little bit of time just like writing, whether that's on LinkedIn or Twitter or posting content um on Instagram, and you'll be able to like really build security for your future because um having an audience means that you can kind of like ask the world for things and potentially get that with like the tap of a button. So that's what I would say.
Amazing.
Would you
Um,
agree with that?
yeah, I think yeah, I think building a personal brand and like you're doing, trying to find your own unique voice so that when people see content from you, it's like, oh, that has to be Shane. I think is really important. Like I think like when you explain to me like the type of meme content that you create, like that to me is the perfect kind of melting pot of your skill set of like what you actually do for a crust, but then adding personality and something controversial and viral to it. Like I can imagine, the way that Apple releases like iOS updates and then they create like a 90-second introducing 18.2. I can imagine that if you took every company that you love and hate and you kind of took the piss around if they brought out an app, you know, like imagine like introducing the DMV iPhone app. And what you do is you sign in, and then what you do is you queue for 25 hours in the app. I could
Yeah.
imagine, like, if you were to do that as video content, I can imagine that that'd be hilarious. So I think you are right. Like, to, for me, a personal brand is about bringing something to the market that they haven't seen before. It's not just producing content and trying to be valuable. It really is like an artistic endeavor before it is anything. Um, and trying to figure out what your DNA is. Um,
Totally.
but 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 trying to figure it out by being as upfront and brutally honest as you possibly can, and then see what you actually are instead of trying to be something, if that makes sense. I think that for me is like, yeah, 100% the biggest. But I think the biggest thing is figure out how to deliver a in a market where people sell services, sell a product that gets a very specific, direct, valuable outcome that can be measured, and work relentlessly on that. Because what I found is for every unit of energy um, that you spend in improving the product to get a better outcome, you get like 100 times more leverage when it comes to marketing and sales. So I don't feel like I have to market or sell either business very um, forcefully, because we've got, you know, hundreds of interviews like we're doing now in both business models. That does the selling, and I'm sure to a degree, like the mix of what you're doing on X kind of pre-sells people, and people are really jumping on the phone just asking a couple of housekeeping questions, and they're already pre-sold on who you are. You know what I mean? So I find that the like a really strong personal brand with a bad product is still going to run into a lot of headwind, whereas a really good product by itself will generally do well. But then if you multiply a personal brand into that, like you can literally take over the universe, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think absolutely. I think for me it was tough at the beginning to like to know what to post, and like you're kind of just like sending out things into the ether, and most of them don't really hit. And then when you find something that hits, it's like, okay, how do you build that into like a series of like repeatable things where you can do it the same thing but in a little bit of a different way so that it's new content. And so I'm still trying to find new series to post like all the time, and part of that is just experimental, right? It's like thinking about every piece of content as a science experiment. So um, for me, that's what's worked. But yeah, I think building a personal brand is like it is. It does need to have a bit of opinion and a bit of like your own take on the world, or else it is just like you're just posting content.
What what would you say is the most out of everybody in your space of UX design, or maybe this bleeds out to other designers as well? What do you think's the most overlooked key to success for somebody trying to build a profitable business model?
Yeah, I think it's so funny, right? Because it's like oftentimes you'll do like a course on something, and it's like the most important stuff is really just the basics. I think people skip the basics, or maybe they overlook the basics. So it's like making sure that you're selling something where you're going to make money, right? It's like the costs are not equal to the revenue that you're bringing in. They're less than. Um, and with a sizable amount so that you can reinvest the money to continue bringing in more customers. And so I think it's like for me the unit economics are super important, but also just like making sure that you do deliver value, and if you were on the other side of the deal, like does this feel like value? And I think being able to take your perspective out of I am the designer and looking at it like, okay, is this going to make me more money, or is this going to help save time, or some other goal that the customer has, and thinking about it in that sense is going to get you a lot farther. I think a lot of designers, they're kind of stuck in like, oh, this looks good, or this is the best practice, and this is the way we do things, when they really need to be thinking more about business, because that's just the people they're interacting with. That's how they're going to be thinking.
Yeah, that's great advice and insight. Um, I know Jill. I what I realized is I invited other people to this call, but then I invited them to in 3 minutes instead of 57 minutes ago. So Jill, yeah, Jill was able to jump on, but dude, yeah, thank you so much for the insights. This has been a really awesome chat. Let me know as well on the back of this, Shane, if there's anything that you want a hand with. We've got another call in 3 minutes.
Yeah, that'd be
I'm jumping onto. But Jill, did you have any questions that you wanted to fire through? Um,
Was I the only one here?
yeah, yeah.
Oh,
I
cool.
I accidentally I accidentally put the invite on the wrong time, so I'll post this in the group so everybody can access this. But yeah, was there anything that you wanted to ask Shane while you got him here?
Um, no, honestly, that was just sweet. I'm excited for the rest of this series. Yeah, Shane, thanks for sharing your insight. It was great to hear about your business. Used to live in Brooklyn too, and so it's just cool to see other creative people doing it.
awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Yeah, Shane, thanks for taking the time, man. I'd love to have another chat in the, kind of maybe halfway through the year to kind of get a bit of an update on where you're at, and feel free to like use the opportunity in the next few weeks to just pick my brain if there's anything I can help with. But congrats on a solid end to last year, and let's get you to 2 million this year.
Thank you. Yeah, I know it's exciting, right? It's like once you hit the one goal, it's like, all right, on to the next.
That's it.
So
You had the you're like, all right, well, what do I do now? Yeah, doubling the goals a pretty good starting point. So yeah, dude, keep us posted, and yeah, thanks for taking the time. Really appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Thank you for putting yourself out into the world.
Thanks, man. Awesome.
Take care.
Speak soon.